Next question. Michael, just wondering what were the bushwhackers like when they were the sheep herders or even the Kiwis? Love the show.
They stink. They were very stinky people when they was out there with those sheep. No, they were good guys, and and I met them a long, long time before they ever went to NWA. They came to the States from Australia, and I was working in Atlanta for a renegade company by Ann Gunkel. Her husband had owned the regular company for a while, and the NWA people turned against her, and Tom Ernesto was the booker. This is years and years ago.
This is after Ray had a heart attack,
Huh?
wasn't it? And Ray
That's
had a
right.
heart attack.
Yeah, and I
The
was
other,
there then in
yeah.
Savannah. He had this match with Ox Baker, and he come back to the dressing room. Everything was fine. And I was riding with Ox, and all of a sudden, somebody was getting ready to pull off, and somebody come up and told us that we're leaving the building that Ray Gunkel had died of a heart attack. And I went, well, damn, that's. And Ox had just worked with him, and Ox said, he had that heart punch, and he'd already. There was another guy that had already had a heart attack because Ox had hit him with the heart punch, and that was one of the
Torres brothers, I believe.
Torres brothers. And so, hey, Ox, they legitimately thought Ox was a murderer in Georgia because two guys, you can do one, but to do two, and Ox had a lot of heat on him. So, but anyway, I do remember what was the main subject now?
Bushwhackers. Well, the sheep herders.
And yeah, and the sheep herders coming in, and they weren't the bushwhackers in, and they were just a different group. And they was telling me all about New Zealand. They were from New Zealand, and I always looked forward to going there. I never did, but I always wanted to go. And those guys worked hard every night. So, and then I also, when I went to Puerto Rico, I booked with Luke, and he was the booker, and things weren't moving like they wanted to, so they hired me, and I went in. Of course, Luke, I didn't want him to lose a spot, so I said, let's keep Luke, and they said, okay. So we had two, and I actually needed him. And then we got the territory up and going, and in about 3 months, we started selling out.
With the sheep herders, were they like the hardcore wrestlers of their day? Because I think for people who are only familiar with the Bushwhackers, they're as family friendly as they come. But in the territories, they were blood and
Oh,
guts and
bloody,
weapons. Yeah.
bloody. The bush, what were the name? Were the
Well,
sheep herders?
they were the sheep
The
herders and they
sheep
were the
herders were the
Kiwis before
bloody
that.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they would it was all outside the ring, and they'd do all kind of stuff, and you know their matches were brutal. Then when they took them to WWE, and I guess they didn't want all that stuff. They didn't want the blood, and they wanted to make them like the favorites of the kids because they had a different idea about them. They wanted to make toy dolls of them and let the kids like them, and they were licking heads and all this stuff. When you saw them in the WWF, they were nothing like they were in the territory days or like they were in Australia and New Zealand before they came over.
Do you know the story about when Vince McMahon told the Bushwhackers they were going to be baby faces? I can't remember if it was Luke or Butch. One of them slammed their hands on the desk and leant right into Vince's face, and you think, and said, "You think that you can really make this face a baby face or whatever?" A terrible accent. And then Vince said, "Have you seen Hulk Hogan? He is not a handsome man."
Yeah. Well, if anybody could do it, Vince could do it. I mean, you could. I don't think it would have been that hard with them. People, they took them, they stomp around, go in the ground, lick the heads, and do all this. There's nothing for the people to dislike. They were just different, and the kids liked them, and they had a hell of a run. Uh, Luke and what was his partner's name?
Well, there's Butch, but then there's like Jonathan Boyd and a couple of
Uh,
others. Yeah.
Butch. When did Butch die? He died last year or so, right?
Yeah, 2 years maybe. Yeah.
Wasn't he at WrestleMania or going to WrestleMania?
Yeah, I think he was on his way. I think he died at like a convention shortly beforehand, maybe.
I hate that.
Yeah.
I really do. And Jonathan Boyd, I knew him too. I think I knew Boyd, and I think Luke was the latest addition to them.
No, they Luke and Butch were the originals, and then one of them went home for 5 years because they were homesick, and then they came back. So Jonathan Boyd was somewhere in between, yeah.
Jonathan went home.
No, Jonathan plugged the gap for a few years.
Okay. That's when I first met them.
Yeah.
So, good guys.
Were they stiff? Because, you know, the hardcore brawls and everything were just easy to work with.
Hey, if you're stiff, if your opponent gets stiff back, then you bring it on yourself. No, they weren't stiff. I never heard anything about the sheep herders being stiff, ever, from anybody.